And we're live.
Hello. Hey, everybody. We
Hi.
are here with a mini episode of the Antler Queens. I am Melanie Rose, and this is.
I am Kelly Geist. Hi, everyone.
It's been a while since we've been here. We haven't been maybe as active as we wanted to. It's been a busy summer, a lot of things happening. One of those big things that's been happening, I think that's been impacting all of us in some way, is the overturn of Roe versus Wade. It's been really tough to watch. We've debated whether or not we should bring our politics and personal experience into this, but given that Yellowjackets covered abortion, I think this is a great opportunity to open some dialogue and talk through it a little bit. So here we are.
Yeah. And we talked about how we would be handling the show during the off season. And I think we were planning on getting back to recording a little sooner than we have been, but this really just kind of put a kink in our entire lives. It's been hard. It's been hard to focus on like a lot of anything. I don't have a standard 9-to-5 job. So it's been, it's easy for me, and it's easy for me to get distracted basically. And this has been just a massive distraction for me. And it's really hurt my focus, and it's been really hard for me to get back into the groove of doing the show again. And so, I thought maybe if we talk about this, that'll help things along. Since it's weighing so heavy on our minds.
Absolutely. And the episode where Yellowjackets tackles the abortion topic is episode 6, which is Saints. It's about halfway through the season. I think a lot of shows have obviously covered abortion and that sort of thing, but I think the way that they presented it in this life or death traumatic situation really lends more more focus and more of an in-depth discussion on why, how, and all that stuff. It's a fictional TV show, but for me, this episode and those scenes were really hard to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely the hardest scene for me to watch by far. It was just really dark. And when I was watching it at the time, I wasn't even thinking, that this could be a reality in the near future. I thought about what women dealt with before Roe versus Wade, but I wasn't looking at it from the perspective of, oh my God, this could be happening a lot in the very near future. And so now it's like, I haven't gone back and watched that episode since, but I don't know if I could.
Yeah. In preparation for this episode, I did rewatch part of it, and I was reading, some different articles, and I did find a quote from a blogger that I thought was interesting, BJ Colangelo. He said, "With Roe versus Wade currently on the chopping block in America, this is the devastating reality we're facing. There are going to be a lot more Shaunas in the world, and a lot of them are not going to have Thaises to comfort them or be able to stop the procedure, no matter how scared they are. And a lot of them are going to die." And, that's a sad reality. If we're looking at some abortion facts, we pulled some statistics from the World Health Organization. 6 out of 10 unintended pregnancies end with an induced abortion. Around 45% of all abortions are unsafe, of which 97% take place in developing countries. An unsafe abortion is a leading but preventable cause of maternal death. Additionally, Doctors Without Borders reports unsafe abortion remains one of the 5 leading causes of maternal mortality, despite the fact it's mostly preventable. And more than 22,000 women and girls die each year after having an unsafe abortion. Those are some pretty staggering statistics. And those statistics are before the overturn of Roe v. Wade. So what's going to happen now? That's the question. What's going to happen now?
Yeah. And, it's the other thing to keep in mind. It's not just everybody needs to have access to abortion for whatever reason. Um, One really frightening statistic is that the I don't believe it was always the leading cause, but what I read recently has murder as the leading cause of death for pregnant women.
Wow.
Yeah, it's there is first of all, most pregnancies do not result in a birth. Either because there's an abortion involved, there is miscarriage. Um, it's it's not childbirth has never been all that safe to begin with. Obviously, we've made great advancements in medicine over the years, but it's still a very traumatic thing to put your body through. Um, I've never had a child, but I know that that it's a traumatic thing, and also one of the primary reasons that I've never had children is because I'm somebody who can't safely carry a child. Um, I mostly because of the medications that I'm on for other health issues, I would have to go off of those medications, and it just would not be safe for me to do so. But there are so many reasons that women need access as far as being an absolute necessity to feel safe and to just survive. I've seen the argument thrown out around social media quite a bit lately that we shouldn't focus on the fact that women need emergency abortions and that there are health issues and there's rape and incest, and we should just leave it at abortion should be legal for any reason. And while I agree with that, I think that those stories are really important. Number one, because they're different. You're talking about women that need extra priority because they're in emergency situations. We're not talking about, I'm not talking about the women who might, just not be ready to have a child and they have the money to hop on a plane and go to a country where they can have an abortion. Um, there are women that need abortions because they can't safely carry a child, or they've been trying to have a child but the pregnancy is killing them, or it's very dangerous for them to be pregnant because they're a young unwed mother who has a violent boyfriend or violent family members, or an abusive husband, and it would be extremely dangerous for them to bring a child into this situation. Those stories are so important. As much as people like to fight, and as much as I can't stand the idea that anybody would want to take that away from somebody, you still have to try to appeal to where they're coming from. And as somebody who grew up in a staunchly anti-abortion household, at least speaking for my own family, they truly believe that you're murdering a baby, which sounds horrible. Nobody wants to murder a baby.
No.
That's not what's happening.
It's not what's happening.
Yeah, you're talking about a non-sentient organism that can't survive on its own. And there's no sense in letting women die when this fetus that you're trying to protect is going to die anyway, or be put in a dangerous situation. Bring them into, a woman or a girl who is raped by her father and is pregnant. If she has to have the baby, she's going to have to bring this baby into a situation where the same thing is going to happen to that child.
And what kind of life is that? If we're talking about pro-life and pro-choice, it's interesting to me that a lot of people who are pro-life, don't support things that will help these children have a good life, such as, financial support. The Republicans are not supportive of a lot of these programs that will actually help them have a life. Not to mention the hypocrisy of, we consider a fetus a life when we're talking about abortion, but we do not consider a fetus a life when we're talking about, stimulus payments or something like that. We conveniently change the narrative to suit the topic we're talking about. And in my mind, we need to get rid of that hypocrisy and, stick to one or the other. If you're pro-life, then maybe also, don't support guns. I don't know. It's a separate debate, but at the same time, guns are killing children in mass school shootings and nothing's being done. Yet we're coming after women for making a personal choice over their own bodies. Like I've had children. I personally would not get an abortion if unless there was a medical need. But in that case, of course, and I would never tell another woman do or don't, or, it's a personal choice. And that's the bottom fucking line.
Yeah. And unfortunately the level of brainwashing is really deep on this. You would think that a lot of people like to think that the women who are against abortion in every situation, a lot of people would like to think that they would change their minds if they found themselves in a situation where they were excited to have a child and they found out that the pregnancy was killing them. And the safest thing to do was to abort. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. Just in seeing the discussions from, involving OBGYNs and regarding former patients and, people who worked at Planned Parenthood. And there seems to be a very, a really disturbing trend of these same women going to have abortions, but wanting to completely separate themselves from all of the other women that are having abortions because they see themselves as different. And it's just, that's insane. It has to stop. Yeah. Not one person, unless you're talking about there was an abortion doctor named Kermit Gosnell, who I believe he was in New York. He's in prison now, rightfully so. He was an absolute monster. He was botching abortions and basically delivering babies and killing them afterwards. He was killing his patients. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life, rightfully so. There is not one person, you will not find one person that thinks that what this man did was okay. This was not an abortion provider. This was a murderer. And we have to get past this idea of looking at the fetus as the same thing as a human being who can feel pain and can
experience emotion.
Yeah, it's not the same. And until that happens, the debate's never going to go anywhere. And that's really sad.
Yep. It is.
Nobody, not one pro-choice person believes in killing babies or believes in, I'm
pro-choice, but I would never murder a baby, right?
Yeah,
like, it's
ridiculous.
Night and day. It is apples and oranges. It is not the same thing. Yeah. We should have autonomy over our bodies, and that's the simple fact.
Exactly. And
what are we doing? Like, like women are punished so much for this. What about men? Like we're the ones that have to take the birth control, which by the way, they're going to come after contraception as well.
Yes.
There's been discussions of, vasectomies. I think there's been an uptick in vasectomies of men going out on their own and having them, which I applaud as well, because you know what? That's a safe practice. And you know what? Hopefully that will help prevent more unwanted pregnancies as well. So I think we need to put more ownership also on men, not just women. It takes two to make a baby. It's not just a woman who's like spontaneously carrying a baby. Like, it's just not a thing. So
it's a difficult situation because the woman, is in the position of control in that situation because it's her body. But if my husband and I decided to start a contest and say, hey, let's for the next year, for the next calendar year, let's see how many babies we can each make on our own. We'll just go and sleep with different people. I'm going to have one baby.
Oh, I like this number, Kelly. I know where you're going.
Yeah. He could make 365 babies.
Yeah.
Not sure he's that virile. I'm not sure any man is that fertile, but he could. He could have sex with a different woman every day of the year. You know what? He could have sex with 3 women every day and impregnate every one of them.
Yes, men can create infinitely more pregnancies than women can actually carry within the course of a year. So if we're looking at it that way, and we're regulating women, I mean, you know, it's really crazy. And you know, I really applaud the Yellowjackets writers for covering this difficult situation. You know, Shauna is pregnant with her best friend's boyfriend's baby. She's stuck out in the wilderness where, you know, they may or may not die anyway. And here she is with a choice. You know, she would rather use an underwire bra to do a DIY abortion than have her best friend find out that she's pregnant, you know, with her boyfriend's baby. And that decision is really crazy to me. And watching this unfold, you know, between her and Thaisa from beginning to end, when they're talking in the cabin, Shauna dreams about having a chicken baby, you know, and eating it. And, you know, that's when she first tells Thaisa that it's Jeff's baby and, you know, what she's thinking about doing. And she promises Ty she won't do it. And, you know, later in the episode, we see the scene unfold. And again, it was really hard to watch. Like, just looking at, you know, the expressions on Sophie Nelise's face, you know, playing this, and, you know, she couldn't go through with it. And she screams, "I don't want to die," even though she's in a situation where she may die anyway. And, you know, just the fact that they had the nerve to show this in a TV show, you know, with teenagers in the wilderness, it's incredible to me. And it was really hard to watch. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but it was really hard to. Can you imagine that? Like sticking a hanger in your vagina in the middle of the woods and having your, I mean, on it, like it's insanity. And I'm glad that she chooses not to. And, you know, something I found interesting about it was the way they juxtaposed these scenes at the same time, where, you know, they had the abortion happening in the woods, and then, you know, Laura Lee is baptizing Lottie in the water, which is this strange back and forth of like life and death and rebirth. You know, like Shauna's facing death, her baby's facing death. In the meantime, Laura Lee is giving Lottie this new life or rebirth kind of experience, or is trying to, because of all the visions and all the things she's having. And in a way, Shauna choosing not to go through with the abortion is her sense of rebirth. It's giving her, you know, a new sense of life and choosing to live. And I think it was very interesting the way that they, you know, did those two scenes together like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, of course they're in a situation where having a child is really dangerous. You know, she's in the prime of her life. She's young and she's healthy. But she's starving. There's no doctors. And, you know, it's like, if it comes down to it, I could die in either situation, but at least this way, you know, my best friend doesn't have to find out that I got pregnant with her boyfriend's child. Yeah, I can't think of another show that had the guts to do anything quite like this.
Graphic. It was graphic.
Yeah. I mean, it was really brave, and I'm so glad they did this. And I mean, you know, personally, the closest that comes to mind for me is the episode of The Walking Dead where Carol was forced to kill Lizzie, the girl with the mental illness, and she basically did it. She, you know, this was the girl who she was kind of taking on as an adoptive daughter.
I just got goosebumps of that. I like can't even with that scene.
Yeah, I mean, she just, you know, she loved this girl, but this girl killed her sister. It was not safe to have her around, but it also wasn't humane to just leave her behind. So she did what she thought was best to do. in that situation, and she killed her. She killed her quickly in the back of the head. That's the closest that I can think of as far as comparisons to any show I've seen take on something like this. But yeah, I mean, it's so brave. And, I'm glad that steps are being taken right now to protect the right to access. And I'm glad that our current president is taking this as seriously as he is. Things could always be done better, but I think, there's some positive steps being taken right now, and I'm glad for that. But everything is temporary. I mean, we're in a situation right now where, the Supreme Court is basically just trying to take over and install theocracy. And
it's a Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like we're almost living in Gilead, we're not far off. And that show outrages me so much to watch it. But at the same time, I can't stop watching because I think that anger is important, for all of us women to have as we continue down this path of, who knows what's next.
Yeah. And, just to kind of share my own story, I mentioned I've never been pregnant, and I haven't been. But several years back, I was out it was actually, I was out with some friends, and we were at a club, and I stepped outside because it was just hot and I needed some air. And I'm going to give a trigger warning right now because there's some graphic material that I'm going to go into here that's kind of disturbing. But basically I was, there were two guys there that had been watching me, and they had drugged me without my knowledge. I thought I had been careful, but I apparently wasn't careful enough. And they had drugged me. The last thing that I remember is being outside. The next thing I remember is, and this is a blessing that I don't really remember. I remember flashes, but the next thing that I really remember clearly is waking up on a friend's couch. My friends had found me outside on the steps. A complete mess. They thought I was drunk, so they took me home. Like, I couldn't even put sentences together. But basically these two guys had drugged me and raped me, and beat the shit out of me. And I have always been blessed with, with all of my physical problems. One thing I've always been blessed with is absolutely perfect periods. Like, never late, never early,
regular cycles,
just perfect. Every woman's dream period. And I was late for the first time in my life after that. And, there's a reason that I didn't get that I didn't obtain emergency contraception after that. I wanted to, but I did not have access at the time to transportation, and my family was not supportive. They were very, very much anti-abortion, and they even saw Plan B as, the potential killing of a child, of a rape baby. And so that was really hard because, suddenly, like, I just went through this traumatic experience, and here's my family is looking at me like I'm trying to murder a baby. But it was kind of a nightmare because I thought, okay, and I'm probably not pregnant. I'll probably be fine. But then, yeah, I was late. And it was terrifying. And I went to I was very young at the time, not really informed on a lot. I went to what I thought was, I went to a counseling center. I I thought it was going to be a place where they would, help me get access to whatever options I might need. And it was, it was an anti-abortion clinic that basically, they were there to, if I was pregnant, they were there to make sure that I did not have an abortion. And it was terrifying and humiliating. And fortunately, after my third pregnancy test, because I was paranoid, nothing happened. I wasn't pregnant. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
But if I had been, it would have been a bad situation, because I can't safely carry a child. And I believe that my family would have been supportive of me having an abortion in that situation. I know they would have been, because, they're okay, in situations where the mother's health is at risk. But I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about it with them. And to even like just put me in that situation in the first place. I mean, it's just not a good situation. I can't relate to somebody who has been pregnant and has been in that situation. It's much more traumatic, obviously, if there's an actual pregnancy involved. But it was absolutely terrifying. And it would have been, I went through some really, really terrible after effects because of it mentally. The entire time I thought that I could be pregnant. I mean, I thought of every possible way that I could commit suicide easily. And I didn't leave the house. I didn't leave the house for like a week. I didn't leave my bedroom for like a week. This was like my biggest fear come to life. And I just wanted to, being pregnant, the idea of being pregnant after this, the most horrifying thing about it was that I just wanted to put this behind me. And I wouldn't be able to, because that reminder would have still been there. I wouldn't be able to move on. It would be a permanent thing. Even if I had access to abortion, I still would have that thing, that memory, So I'm so lucky that I wasn't pregnant. But the fact, if I had access to Plan B or to abortion services, it would have been a much less scary experience for me in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to share my own experience with that. And, it wasn't like, if it was just me, like having unprotected sex with my boyfriend and I got pregnant, I'm not ready for, I wouldn't have been ready at that point for a child. I should be able to make that decision. It's my own body. It's not, there's not a baby's body involved. It's a non-sentient organism. I should have the right to do that. But somebody in that situation who had no choice in the matter, I didn't put myself in that situation to get pregnant. I mean, it's just insane to me that
it is absolutely insane. The fact that the government would try to take away, our right to choose. I just, and something that's interesting, and of course it's all speculation, but, what would the conversation have been if, back to Yellowjackets again, they had not, if Shauna had not been stranded in the wilderness, what would she have done if she was just back in New Jersey? Would she have had the baby, or would she have sought out an abortion for the same reason? She didn't want Jackie to know, so it's interesting, the way that they put this in the survival trauma situation versus like the real world, because it does, sit differently in terms of what her choice maybe would have been, back. But the bottom line with everything is the word choice. You should have had a choice. You should have had access. We should all have a choice over our own bodies. Again, nobody wants to murder babies, even if you're pro-choice. And, if you're going to be pro-life, then, consider being pro-life about everything, I mean, just not having a choice is disgusting to me. And, I'm sure there's some people maybe watching or listening. If you've gotten this far into the episode and you're pro-life, thank you for sticking around and listening to us. I think it's, again, important to have these conversations. And, Kelly, sharing your personal story, there's so many women with all different types of stories, maybe some who were, attacked and raped who did get pregnant, or, the incest situations or whatever. But, I'm so sorry your family was not more supportive. I think families should be supportive no matter what, your family, it's just another divisive thing that's tearing our country apart. It's tearing women apart, inside and outside. And, we need to get loud, and we need to have these conversations. And that's why we felt it was important to be here and, address it. And it sucks that we have to have this conversation about Roe v. Wade when it's something that should never, never have been overturned, ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Men, I know we have some male listeners. If you're, if you're young and you think that you may still have lots of children to bear, please consider getting a vasectomy.
They're reversible. I mean, they are reversible. You can get it reversed when you're ready to have children.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. And, and they are reversible. They're not as reversible as we've been led to believe. I found out recently, and you kind of need to, you can't go forever without having it reversed.
Right.
You're kind of on a clock, but, you can freeze your sperm. Just please take responsibility and do what you can to avoid putting a woman in the situation where she could be pregnant.
And support her when she is, regardless of her choice. It is a woman's body, and it should be a woman's right to choose. And having a supportive partner, for whatever your situation is, I think is so important. And thank you to all the supportive males out there, who have been through this and supported a partner. And, that's so important. And unfortunately, not all partners are that supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, this was a really tough thing to talk about, just because it's like, as dark as Yellowjackets is, we kind of wanted to, I don't think we're afraid to talk about what our personal politics are, but it's, we didn't necessarily want to bring politics into the show, because it's like, we wanted to keep it fun and light and just as an escape, even though it's a darker show. But I mean, it's, when it gets to the point that something is affecting the show because we're this upset about it, I think it was important to talk about. So I really appreciate everybody sticking it out with us on this episode.
Of course. And you know what? I think we should show this one more time. It is extremely graphic. We've got the photo up of, Thaisa helping with the hanger and Shauna in the woods. And, this is a reminder that these types of abortions, unfortunately, still happen and will be happening more in states where access is not available. Granted, this is a way different situation. They're in the wilderness and maybe, thought they were going to die anyway, and the trauma and all of that stuff. But it does not matter. This will be happening in our country. There will be more women dying, and it's appalling.
It is.
It's appalling.
And, one thing that I want to stress to everybody, especially those who are engaging in social media discourse about the subject, this is a situation that is extremely intersectional. It affects everybody. It literally affects everybody, because abortion is healthcare, and it can't just stop at one form of healthcare. Women who are not pregnant, they've been getting denied their cancer treatment drugs because they could potentially cause an abortion if they were to get pregnant.
And miscarriages too, right? I mean, that's another situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to listen to marginalized voices and put them to the front. People who are most affected by this. Poor women, Black, brown, Indigenous women, disabled women,
women in abusive relationships.
Yes. But we need to not silence anybody. Please do not. I've seen it happen a lot, and it's really frustrating. The woman who has millions in the bank, who is so excited to be pregnant, she could still have an ectopic pregnancy and die because she can't get an abortion. We have to be worried. We have to be concerned about her too. This literally affects every woman and every trans man. Anybody who can get pregnant. Everyone who has the physical girls.
Girls, I have a daughter, and
Yeah.
and thinking about having an 8-year-old daughter who in a few years could be pregnant. Hopefully nothing ever happens to her that will put her in a tough situation. But if it did, she needs to have rights. And I would be supportive of her no matter what, as her mother, as a fellow woman, and, paving the way for access and women's rights for the next generation is so important. As the mother of a daughter, I think hits me even harder knowing that, her rights could be in jeopardy someday. And that's a scary thought. Having, raising a daughter in a world where things are uncertain. And, with these fictional shows like, Handmaid's Tale, thinking, could that be our future? I mean, oh no, it's so far off and that's never going to happen. But, is it? I mean, that's the question at hand. So.
Yeah, and absolutely. And listen to when Black and brown and Indigenous and disabled women are talking about how they felt not cared about in the past. Please listen to them. But please know that it doesn't just affect us. I say us because I'm a disabled woman. It doesn't just affect us. It affects everybody, and everybody. We need to include everybody in the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, I feel better. I feel like the weight is maybe starting to lift a little bit. I think, I've been having conversations, like one-way conversations, where I'm yelling at the television in my home, like outraged, even conversations, around my kids, and with my husband and with other women. And, I think this conversation was a very positive step in helping to, cope and, hopefully, set a more positive tone moving forward. Hopefully things will get better. Hopefully we're able to pass some bills for more protection. But if not, we're here, we're pro-choice. We applaud Yellowjackets for covering abortion in such a graphic manner. And I think they should really be, applauded for that. It's interesting because there were some articles out there that are, Yellowjackets is supporting abortion mills by putting this on TV. And it's like, what? Like, get over it. I'm interested to see if we catch any sort of flack for this. I'm interested to see if people comment and, support this, or if we're going to get a bunch of, trolls in the comments. So, I guess no matter who comes to the comments, please keep it respectful. Let's not attack anybody. We all have a right to our opinions. And, clearly we are pro-choice, and that is our stance. So that nothing is going to change our minds about that, no matter what you say. But, we just appreciate you being here and listening and giving us an opportunity to help us, move through this volatile political and medical, healthcare situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've got more stuff coming up. We promise. I know, like, this has kind of caused us to drag our feet and pull our focus a little bit, but we've got a fan panel episode coming up that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have some fans on the show, and hopefully we'll be doing more episodes like that again after this next one. But we've absolutely got some more shows coming up, exclusive content, which we're going to be announcing. We just put our Patreon together, so we're going to be kind of like officially launching that very, very shortly. And there's going to be all kinds of great perks that you can sign up for. So we're still around.
Yes.
We're still bringing you content.
If there's a topic for a mini episode you'd like us to cover, hit us up and let us know. We've got a few different topics we've been discussing. We still maybe want to cover the wilds and Yellowjackets in a compare contrast type of episode. But if there's any specific topic for Yellowjackets, conspiracy theories, whatever, hit us up and let us know. We are totally open to suggestions.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add, Melanie?
No, I think we were able to move through this conversation in a positive way. I know I got a lot off my chest.
Yeah.
And, more than anything, Kelly, thank you for sharing your story. I
Oh
know,
yeah, absolutely.
it's can be difficult to share, personal experiences like that. But I think it's important that more women do share their stories to come to this common ground that, we're all having different situations and make choices for different reasons. But again, it all boils down to autonomy over our own bodies and maintaining the right to choose.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah.
All
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Well, thanks so much for
Okay.
sticking by us, and keep an eye on our social media for the update of our next episode. We should be announcing that very shortly. So hopefully in the next few days.
Absolutely. Hey, Kelly,
Hey, what?
buzz off.
Buzz off.
All right. Antler Queen's out.